As we approach the 25th anniversary of the historic Good Friday Agreement, it's important to reflect on the journey that led to peace in Northern Ireland after decades of conflict. Join us as we explore the Troubles, the key events that shaped this turbulent period, and how the Good Friday Agreement has transformed the region. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more informative Irish content. The Troubles refers to a turbulent and violent sectarian conflict in Northern Ireland that lasted from the late 1960s to the late 1990s. At the heart of the conflict were two opposing sides: Irish nationalists, who sought a united Ireland, and Unionists, who wished to remain part of the United Kingdom. The Troubles saw a tragic loss of life, with over 3,500 people killed and thousands more injured. 25 years ago, on the 10th of April 1998, after decades of violence, the Good Friday Agreement was signed. This landmark peace accord established a power-sharing government in Northern Ireland and laid the foundation for a reconciliation between the nationalist and unionist communities. The Good Friday Agreement remains a major turning point in Irish history and has since influenced other peace processes around the world. The Good Friday Agreement serves as an example of how seemingly intractable conflicts can be resolved through diplomacy, negotiation, and compromise. To understand the Troubles, we must go back to the origins of Irish nationalism and unionism. Irish nationalism is rooted in the desire for an independent, united Ireland free from British rule. The movement gained momentum in the 19th and early 20th centuries, with the rise of organisations like the IRB, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and the political parties like Sinn Féin. On the other hand, unionism developed in response to these growing nationalist movements. Unionists, primarily concentrated in the northeastern part of the island, were largely Protestant and identified closely with Britain. They sought to maintain the union between Britain and Ireland, fearing that a united, independent Ireland would be dominated by the Catholic majority. In 1921, following centuries of English and later British rule in Ireland, the Irish War of Independence culminated in the Anglo-Irish Treaty and brought to an end British colonial rule on most of the island. The Anglo-Irish Treaty divided the island of Ireland, establishing the Irish Free State, which would later become the Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland, which would remain part of the United Kingdom. The partition on the island created a new political landscape, with Northern Ireland becoming a predominantly Unionist and Protestant region, and the nationalist and Catholic minority in Northern Ireland finding themselves marginalised and discriminated against in a state that was largely controlled by the Unionist majority. In the decades following partition, tensions between the nationalist and Unionist communities grew, fueled by political, social and economic factors. Discrimination against the Catholic minority in areas such as housing, employment and voting rights intensified resentment and division. In response, a civil rights movement driven by Catholics in Northern Ireland gained momentum in the late 1960s, and tensions escalated, eventually culminating in the outbreak of the Troubles. The Troubles began in the late 1960s, as the civil rights movement in Northern Ireland sought to end discrimination against the Catholic and nationalist community. Protests and demonstrations were met with a heavy-handed response from the authorities, further exacerbating the tensions. As the situation deteriorated, paramilitary organisations emerged on both sides of the conflict. The Irish Republican Army, the IRA, aimed to reunify Ireland through armed struggle, while loyalist paramilitary groups, such as the Ulster Volunteer Force UVF and the Ulster Defence Association the UDA, fought for the preservation of the union with Britain. During the Troubles, several key events and turning points significantly impacted the course of the conflict. The introduction of internment without trial under the Special Powers Act in 1971 was a significant development during the Troubles. Internment was a policy implemented by the British government, allowing them to detain without trial any individuals suspected of being involved in paramilitary activities. The majority of those interned were from the nationalist community, and the policy was widely criticised for its lack of due process and the mistreatment of detainees. Internment further fuelled resentment towards the British authorities and resulted in a renewed wave of violence. On January 30th, 1972, British soldiers opened fire on a civil rights demonstration in Derry, killing 14 unarmed civilians. This event, known as Bloody Sunday, intensified the conflict and fuelled widespread anger towards the British government and security forces. Another notably tragic day during the Troubles was July 21st, 1972, which became known as Bloody Friday, when the IRA detonated 22 bombs in Belfast within a span of just 80 minutes, targeting various commercial and infrastructure locations across the city. The bombings resulted in the deaths of 9 people and left over 130 injured. In 1981, IRA prisoners in Long Kesh Prison, otherwise known as the Maze, embarked on a hunger strike to protest their treatment and demand political prisoner status. 10 prisoners, including Bobby Sands, died during the hunger strike, drawing international attention to the conflict and gaining significant support for the Republican cause. In November 1987, the IRA carried out a bombing during a Remembrance Day ceremony in Enniskillen, killing 11 people and injuring many more. This attack was widely condemned, leading to a loss of support for the IRA and increased calls for peaceful resolution to the conflict. The Troubles had a profound effect on the people of Northern Ireland. In addition to the tragic loss of life, the conflict disrupted daily life, instilled fear in communities and exacerbated divisions between nationalists and unionists. The violence also took a toll on the economy, as businesses were destroyed, investment dwindled and unemployment rates soared. As the conflict dragged on, the need for a peaceful resolution became increasingly apparent. Throughout the Troubles, various attempts were made to bring an end to the violence and establish a lasting peace in Northern Ireland. In 1973, the Sunningdale Agreement was reached, aiming to establish a power-sharing government in Northern Ireland and a cross-border council between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. However, the agreement faced significant opposition from both nationalists and unionists, ultimately leading to its collapse in 1974. The Anglo-Irish Agreement, signed in 1985 by the British and Irish governments, sought to improve cooperation between the two countries and give the Irish government an advisory role in Northern Ireland's affairs. This agreement was met with strong opposition from unionists, who saw it as an undermining of their position within the United Kingdom. The peace process gained significant momentum in the 1990s, with several key developments paving the way for the eventual Good Friday Agreement. In 1993, the Downing Street Declaration was issued by the British Prime Minister John Major and the Irish Taoiseach Albert Reynolds. The declaration affirmed the right of the people of Northern Ireland to determine their own future and opened the door for peace talks involving all parties, including Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA, on the condition that they renounce violence. In response to the Downing Street Declaration and growing calls for peace, the IRA declared a ceasefire in August of 1994, followed by a similar announcement from the loyalist paramilitary groups in October. Although these ceasefires were not permanent, they marked a significant step towards a peaceful resolution to the conflict. In 1998, after many years of negotiation and multiple setbacks, the Good Friday Agreement was reached. Key participants in the peace talks included the political leaders from Northern Ireland's nationalist and unionist communities, the British and Irish governments, and various political parties and stakeholders. The negotiations were chaired by former US Senator George Mitchell, who played a crucial role in guiding the process to a successful outcome. The Good Friday Agreement addressed several critical issues, aiming to create a lasting peace and a stable political environment in Northern Ireland. One of the central aspects of the agreement was the establishment of a power-sharing government in Northern Ireland, known as the Northern Ireland Assembly. This new government would be composed of representatives from both nationalist and unionist communities, ensuring that all sides had a voice in decision-making processes. To address the issue of paramilitary violence, the Good Friday Agreement called for the decommissioning of weapons held by paramilitary groups. This process, overseen by the Independent International Commission on Decommissioning, aimed to resolve and remove the threat of violence and create a peaceful environment for political dialogue. The agreement also recognised the need for policing and justice reforms in Northern Ireland. The Patton Commission was established to review policing practices and recommended changes to create a more representative and accountable police service, ultimately leading to the formation of the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland. Lastly, the Good Friday Agreement emphasised the importance of human rights and equality, creating mechanisms to ensure the protection of these rights for all citizens. The Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission and the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland were established to address these issues and promote a more inclusive and fair society. The Good Friday Agreement was put to a public referendum in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland on May 22, 1998. The agreement received widespread support, with 71% of voters in Northern Ireland and 94% in the Republic of Ireland voting in favour of its ratification. This public endorsement marked a significant turning point in the history of the conflict, as the people of Ireland demonstrated their desire for peace and reconciliation. While the Good Friday Agreement marked a significant milestone in the pursuit of peace in Northern Ireland, the months and years following its ratification were not without challenges. Just months after the signing of the agreement, on the 15th of August 1998, a car bomb was detonated in the town of Omagh, killing 29 people, including a woman pregnant with twins, and injuring more than 200 others. The bombing was carried out by the Real IRA, a dissident Republican group that opposed the peace process. The Omagh bombing was widely condemned by political leaders and the public, both in Northern Ireland and internationally. It underscored the importance of continuing efforts to promote peace and reconciliation, and served as a sombre reminder of the potential consequences of a return to violence. The power-sharing government faced numerous obstacles, including disagreements over key issues and difficulties in building trust between nationalist and unionist parties. This has occasionally led to political deadlock and the suspension of the Northern Ireland Assembly, as it is currently, highlighting the fragile nature of the peace process. Despite these challenges, the Good Friday Agreement has brought about significant progress and successes in Northern Ireland. The most notable achievement has been the dramatic reduction in violence since the agreement. While sporadic incidents continue to occur, the overall level of violence has decreased significantly, leading to a safer and more secure environment for the people of Northern Ireland. The peace process established by the Good Friday Agreement has facilitated economic growth and development in Northern Ireland. As the region has become more stable, foreign investment has increased, and industries such as tourism, technology, and renewable energy have flourished. The Good Friday Agreement has also opened the door for social progress and reconciliation efforts. Community-based initiatives, cross-border cooperation, and cultural exchange programs have helped bridge the divide between nationalist and unionist communities, fostering a greater understanding of shared experiences and common goals. The Troubles and the Good Friday Agreement offer valuable insights into the complexities of conflict resolution and the importance of dialogue and negotiation. The peace process demonstrated that even in seemingly intractable conflicts, open dialogue and negotiation can lead to breakthroughs and lasting peace. The willingness of all parties to engage in talks and make difficult compromises played a crucial role in reaching the Good Friday Agreement. The inclusive nature of the peace process, involving all stakeholders and ensuring their concerns were addressed, was a critical factor in its success. By giving each side a voice in the process, the Good Friday Agreement helped build trust and foster a shared commitment to peace. International support and mediation, particularly from the United States and the European Union, played a significant role in facilitating the peace process. The involvement of neutral mediators and the support of the international community can be invaluable in helping conflicting parties find common ground and achieve a lasting resolution. One key figure in this context was US President Bill Clinton, whose administration took on an active interest in promoting peace in Northern Ireland. Clinton appointed former US Senator George Mitchell as a special envoy for Northern Ireland, and Mitchell went on to chair the peace talks that resulted in the Good Friday Agreement. President Clinton's engagement in the peace process helped encourage all parties to work towards a shared vision of peace and reconciliation. In addition to his diplomatic efforts, President Clinton also made an historic visit to Northern Ireland in 1995, becoming the first sitting US president to do so. His visit and speeches in Belfast and Derry were seen as a strong endorsement of the peace process, and they galvanised public support for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. As we look to the future, it's essential to continue supporting peace and reconciliation efforts in Northern Ireland. Sustaining peace requires ongoing dialogue and cooperation between nationalist and unionist communities, as well as between the British and Irish governments. In recent years, the United Kingdom's decision to leave the European Union, commonly known as Brexit, has raised concerns about the potential impact on the Good Friday Agreement and peace in Northern Ireland. One key issue is the border between Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, and the Republic of Ireland, an EU member state. The Good Friday Agreement facilitated an open border between these two regions, fostering cross-border cooperation and economic integration. Brexit raised the prospect of a hard border being reintroduced, which could potentially undermine the progress made since the agreement. To address this concern, the UK and the EU negotiated the Northern Ireland Protocol as part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. The protocol aimed to prevent a hard border by keeping Northern Ireland aligned with certain EU regulations, while also maintaining its place within the UK's custom territory. However, the implementation of the protocol has been a source of tension, with concerns about its impact on trade and political stability within Northern Ireland. More recently, both sides have agreed upon the Windsor Framework, which has tried to resolve concerns arising from the original Northern Ireland Protocol. As the situation continues to evolve, it's essential to carefully consider the impact of Brexit on the Good Friday Agreement and the hard-won peace in Northern Ireland, and to ensure that any decisions made must preserve the spirit of reconciliation and cooperation embodied by the agreement. Dealing with the legacy of the Troubles remains an important task for the people of Northern Ireland. Many families are still seeking answers and justice for the loss of their loved ones during the conflict. Efforts to establish truth have been met with various obstacles, making it difficult to achieve closure for those affected by the violence. Providing support for victims and their families, and promoting healing and understanding will be crucial in continuing the process of reconciliation. As an Irishman, I believe that building a shared future in Northern Ireland requires fostering a sense of common identity and purpose, encouraging cross-community initiatives, promoting cultural understanding, and investing in education and economic opportunities for all citizens can help create a more inclusive and unified society. So on the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, it's important to remember the sacrifices made by those who sought peace and the lessons we can learn from this pivotal period in Irish history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Troubles and the Good Friday Agreement. If you enjoyed the series, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more informative content.